Hello everyone, welcome back to my videos. I hope everyone's had a lovely week because it's been about a week since I uploaded a video. Today we're going to be doing a sit down kind of video, so we're not going to be moving about, so I hope you're sitting comfortably. I'm on the floor with the mess of my living room behind because I didn't want it to be noisy for you, so this is where we are. So today I thought I would run through a really important thing when it comes to your nutrition. So we're going to figure out how to calculate your calories that's specific to you and your macros. So the reason that you need to do this for you is that because your body needs a different amount to everyone else's. I mean, there probably is someone out there in the world that has the same calories and macros as you, but it's not as common as you might think because there's loads of different variables. So we're going to talk about how you need to do it rather than just like seeing somebody else's and being like, right, that's what I need. It's not going to work for you. You need to have what you need. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about what calories and macros mean and stuff. So I'm not going to go into the sciencey side of it because that could get really boring. So in terms of calories are literally the things that give us energy. So don't worry, I'm not going to ramble on loads about this. I know this might sound a bit boring, but calories, I just want to kind of do a disclaimer because everyone seems to be really scared of calories, and I don't want you to be. Calories is literally the thing that your body needs to have energy, and it needs it to just even function. Like there's this thing called your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, which is basically the calories that your body needs just to function. Like your BMR is literally the calories that your body needs to just lie on a bed all day and do sweet nothing, just for like organs to function, for you to just hold your, well, not even hold your posture if you're lying on a bed all day. It's basically the base rate of calories that you need. So even if you don't do anything, your body still needs those calories to go into your body. So you don't need to be scared of them at all. You can like, don't worry about, oh my god, this has got this many calories in. Your body needs them. It needs them to survive. So don't be scared of them. Next up is macros. So you might have heard the term thrown about. If you already know what they are, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about this for ages. But macros are basically macronutrients, and it's the big food groups that are in your diet. So everything that you eat can be broken down into its macros. So say if you had like a piece of bread, within that it can be broken down into macros, and what they are protein, fats and carbohydrates. So like every food, say a piece of bread, again, a piece of bread can be broken up into how much protein it has, how much carbs it has, and how much fats it has in it. And that's it. And that's also how kind of like it calculated how many calories it has in them, because each gram of them is associated with a certain amount of calories, and that's it really. So when people talk about setting their macros and finding out how many macros they need, it's kind of down to them setting how much of each food group they're going to eat. So like how much protein they're going to eat in a day, how much fat, and how much carbohydrates. And that's what it is when people say setting their macros. The only other thing to talk about really is micronutrients, but they're called micronutrients for a reason because they're not needed as in a big of a scale as macros. So they're probably not as important, but they're probably not as like a big thing to track, but they're just as important to get into your diet. You still need them. Micronutrients are kind of like your vitamins and your minerals, but people tend not to track them as much because they're not needed as big as quantities as macros. And that's kind of it really. Protein and carbs and fats, they're all dead important. Like they're all needed in your diet. They all have different functions. Protein tends to be things like your muscles, moving your muscles, maintaining like that kind of stuff. There's loads of other stuff, but I'm not going to bore you. Fats tends to be good for like filling yourself up, energy, digestion, that kind of stuff. And carbs is mainly your energy source. So that's the kind of main thing that gets broken down to give you your energy. So they're all just as important. You don't need to cut any of them out at all if that's not what you want to do. I know there's a lot of diets like keto and all that kind of stuff that cut out food groups. like there's, I don't think I've ever came across a diet where it's cut out protein, but there might be. But you don't need to cut out carbs, you don't need to cut out fats, because they're all needed in your diet. You don't want to cut one out if you don't want to. Obviously, if you prefer to eat like low carbs or low fats or whatever, that's fine, but I would never recommend to fully cut one out, because like I said, they're all needed within your diet. So if you want to cut one out to a lower amount, that's okay, but just be a bit careful, because it can have different like side effects and stuff. So that's kind of it for like calories and macros. Next, we'll go on to actually figuring out how much you need. Like I said, you need a different amount to other people. It all goes off different things. So there's kind of two different sections to figuring out your calories, because we'll do the calories first because it's the biggest thing kind of thing. So the equation that I use is a bit complicated, so I'm just going to pop it across the screen now. As you can see, that it includes your weight, your height and your age. It has loads of different variables, and that's why it changes from person to person, because you're going to weigh something different to someone else, you're going to be a different height, that kind of thing. Also, one to note is that your weight in this equation is in kilograms and your height is in centimeters, and obviously your age is in years. So make sure you factor that in. It looks dead complicated, and this is just the one I use. There's actually like loads of different equations that everyone uses, and there's loads of calculators on the internet that uses like different equations, but this is just the one that I use as a base, because I'm going to come on to it a bit later, but this is kind of just a rough guideline to start on. So this equation, what I use currently, that is to give you your base calories. So that's without factoring in how much exercise you do, how much like how active you are essentially. So once you've got a number from that equation, you need to then times it by a certain amount as to how much activity you do. So there's like different categories in terms of like what, I need a better word for this, and how active you are. So if you're really sedentary, you don't need to times that first number by a big amount, because you're not doing much more activity than what you would be like just a base, right? So you probably only need to times it by like 1.2, and then as the categories go up, I've got the categories that I use because I've got my own macro calculator that I did by myself on Excel. I'm sorry, but IT goddess. I have the categories that I use. So for sedentary, I times that first number by 1.2. Then lightly active is 1.375. Then moderately active, it goes up to 1.55. Then hard, 1.725. I barely use that one. That's kind of for like athletes where they're like on the go all the time. So, but different people use different things, so that's what I use as getting a base rate on how many calories somebody needs. I found there's a company, yeah, I'm gonna call it a company, that I follow called, they were called Shredded by Science, but now they're called the PT Collective, and I really trust them, and they have a shorter version for you. So what theirs is 22 times your body weight in kilograms times how active you are, and their categories are different. So if you want to have a look at their categories, that's them there from their post. I'll put their Instagram in the thing so you can see theirs, but obviously people have different things. But you see, the thing with all of these equations and calculating them, they are really good for a base rate, but I mean, if something's spat out at you that you need to eat 2,000 calories to maintain, and then you start eating 2,000 calories every day, and then you're putting on weight, you obviously don't need 2,000 calories. So it's not the be all and end all. It can be wrong. This is just like a base, right? It doesn't mean that that is definitely the calories that you need. So when it comes to figuring out how many calories that you need, sorry, my legs are going dead, I would recommend doing this equation, figuring out how many it says that you need to maintain your weight, so basically just how many calories your body needs. If you want to lose weight, you need to be eating less than that. If you want to put on weight, you need to be eating more than that. But if you're maintaining, you just need to be eating that. So go on that amount of calories, track it, and track your weight whilst you're doing that. If your weight's going up, you probably don't need that many calories. If your weight's going down, you probably need a little bit more. And then that tells you how many calories that you actually need. Because like I said, it's just an equation. It doesn't know you, it doesn't know your life. You could have worked it out wrong in terms of how active you are. So you need to track and figure out like if it's actually right or not. Because the last thing you want to be doing is thinking, right, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to eat less than what I need, and then really that was your surplus, like that was your calories that you should be eating to put on weight. So that's the last thing you want. Figure out how many calories you actually need instead of just relying on that equation. So next, in terms, I'll talk to you a little bit about, well, I'll talk to you about setting your macros, and then I'll talk about how to track them, I think. Okay, so this is where I might start getting a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try and make it as simple as I can. I'm going to try and have little pop-up things coming up so you can see it. So, with your macros, one thing you need to know is that they all have different caloric values for how much calorie is in 1 gram of each. For 1 gram of protein, there's 4 calories to each gram. For 1 gram of carbs, there's also 4. For 1 gram of fats, it's 9, so it's a bit higher for fats, which is obviously how it is because it tastes better. You need to know that for a little bit later on. For figuring out how many of each one you need for you personally, it comes down to a lot of personal preference. So it tends to vary in terms of like how much people have of each for every single person, but the most important one to kind of track when you're doing you're doing this for training is your protein. Because protein is the thing that's going to keep the muscle there. If you're in a weight loss phase, if you're not eating enough protein, your body's going to try and break down your muscle first. And obviously if you're wanting to build some muscle in like when you're eating more calories than you should, you need that protein there to help build the muscle. So protein's kind of like the main one to track. So the kind of recommended amount to have for protein is 1.8 to 3 grams per kilogram of weight, of your weight, if that makes sense. That's a big range, to be honest. I mean, it's 1.8 to 3, so that's there for you to choose how much protein you want in your diet. 1.8 is the minimum, so if you don't like eating a lot of protein, 1.8 is what you probably should be eating. But if you love eating loads of protein, like you love getting the meat in, nuts, all that kind of stuff, like 3 is probably the maximum that should be eaten. So if you're not that bothered, you could put it at 2. But that's kind of like the range you should be eating. Oh, and this is for weight loss, by the way, because the changes a little bit when you're in a surplus, which is when you're eating more calories than what you should be needing. But this is for weight loss for 1.8 to 3 grams. So say if we had a person who is eating a moderate amount of protein and they enjoy that, so they want to eat about 2 grams, they would have, and they weighed 70 kilograms, they would have to eat 140 grams of protein a day. And that's it, that's their protein intake. From that, we then need to make that into how many calories you need to eat. We just times 140, which is the grams you need per day, times it by 4, and that gives us how many calories are coming from protein, which is dead handy because then you know how many calories you need from that. And that would, for the example we just used, for 140 grams of protein a day, that would then be 560 calories. And that's because the calories that equate to 1 gram is 4, so we just times that grams amount by 4. Hopefully this is making sense. I'm hoping I'm explaining it well. Next up is fats. So fats goes a little bit different. I know this is making it even more complicated, but it's how it goes. So fats, we go off calories, so we need that number that you're aiming to eat for calories. So say if we had someone who was like on 1900 calories in the, like that's how many calories they were going to eat to lose weight, we want 13 to 35% of those calories to come from fats. So again, we've got that range. So 13 is the minimum percentage and 35 is the maximum. So if you like eating fat, so you like your cheese, your milk, that kind of stuff, you probably want to go 35%. If you're not that bothered about fat, you want to be, the minimum is 13%, because obviously it's still an important food group. So say if we had that person who was eating 1900 calories and they wanted to have 35% because they like that fat, they would need to have 665 of their calories coming from fat. To get that into the grams format, all you got to do is divide it by 9, because remember, 1 gram of fat equates to 9 calories. So we just divide that by 9, and to do that they would then need 73.9 grams of fat. So that's it for their fat. For carbs, it's then just the rest of the calories that you have. So now that we've got the protein and the fats, grams and calories, all we need to do is add the calories up that they've already got, then take that away from their total amount of calories they want to eat, and then that's how many they have. So say if we had the person who was eating 560 calories of fat, no, 560 calories of protein, 665 calories of fats, we would take those two away from 1900, which gives us 675. Then we can divide that by 4 to get the grams, if you want the grams, which is 168.8 grams. And that's it. So I know that sounds super complicated, but basically for weight loss, the take-home points are you need to eat 1.8 to 3 grams per kilograms of body weight. For fats, you want them to be coming from 13 to 35% of your total calorie number, and then the carbs is just the rest. I know this sounds really complicated, but if you want help and you just want someone to do it for you, just message me and I'm happy to just do it for you. Like I say, I've got the calculator that I use so I can just do it quickly for you. I'd be more than happy to. It changes a little bit for muscle gain. So I'm not going to go through all the whole examples of muscle gain because we've just done it. I'm just going to run through it quickly. So it changes for protein. Instead of 1.8 to 3, it's now 1.2 to 2. It goes smaller because protein isn't as readily needed to keep the muscle mass whilst we're losing weight. Obviously we need it to build the muscle, but it's not needed as highly to maintain that muscle. And then fat stays the same and carbs stay the same. So I know it said it changes a lot, but protein's the only thing that changes really. So 1.2 to 2 grams per kilograms of body weight, 13 to 35% from your overall calories, and then your carbs is just the rest. And obviously when you're in calorie surplus, it means you're going to get more of everything, so it's exciting. So that's kind of it. I hope it made sense in terms of tracking. It is dead complicated, but I mean, that's what PTs are for, so this is just if you want to try and do it yourself. I'll put all of the the equations and the technical stuff in the description box, so don't worry if you can't remember everything and you want to start skipping back and stuff. Don't worry, just have a look in the description box and I'll put it in there. But that's it. So now obviously we've got all of that. We know how much we need to eat. Now we need to kind of think about how we're going to track it. So this might be dead obvious to some people, but I'm just going to show you anyway. The easiest app that I've found to track your nutrition is MyFitnessPal. You can use it on iOS and Android. That's it. It's by Under Armour if anyone's interested. When you log into it, the first thing I'll do, it's going to ask you loads and loads of questions about how much you weigh, basically it's going to try and do all this for you. And it's going to try and do the equations instead of you doing it yourself. And I'm not going to lie, I don't like it, because when people are say I want to lose weight, it puts people on way too low calories, and I don't think it's as accurate, and obviously it's not going to know what you've done when you've tracked your maintenance weight and see whether it actually works for you. So when it asks you all the questions, fill them in, but when it asks you if you want to lose weight or gain weight, put maintenance, and then you can manually put stuff in. This is what it looks like in terms of tracking your food. This is the iOS version because obviously I have an iPhone, but this is kind of like your food diary. So First of all, I'll show you how to put your own like calories and macros in. So if you go to the little 3 dots at the bottom, then goals, I'm not going to show you because you can't see because of the window, but go to goals, then you can see that it'll have calories, carbs, protein and fats. That's where you need to click on, and that's where you need to put it in. If you don't have the premium version, which you don't need to get, you'll not be allowed to put grams in, but you can kind of figure it out with the percentages. So it puts it in percentage, like this 40% for carbs, 35% for protein, that kind of thing. But if you fiddle about with it, it comes up at the top of how many grams that is, so you can make it just roughly what you need it to be. Then click it, change the calories to whatever you want it to be, and then that's it really. That's your goals entered into there. To track it, it's so easy on this app. I can't even like describe, because every like food company is getting loads better with actually putting this stuff on it. To add food, there is like different meals you can put in. You literally click add food. You can either search for a food. Be careful to search for the right one that you're eating. So say if you're having, I don't know, say if you're having like some cheddar cheese, make sure you put like Tesco cheddar cheese or Asda cheddar cheese, because they do change. But type it in, and this is a really silly thing that kind of seems obvious, but make sure you press search. I've had quite a few clients who've typed it in, they're like, oh, nothing came up, but make sure you click search, and then it'll come up with it. You can click on the one that you want, then you change how much you've had of it, so your portion size, your grams. If you're weighing food, you can put that in. If you're not, you can like roughly measure it. You can say like half a container, that kind of thing. So, and then you click the tick button to add it, and then it shows up in your food diary there, and then that's it. And then you just put everything that you've ate in there. It's dead simple. You can also scan foods in there. It's got a little barcode scanner, if you can see in the corner. That's dead easy, because you can literally just scan it and you don't have to worry about searching for the right one. And that's it. To have a look at what your nutrition's like, at the top it'll come up with how many you've set for yourself that day. Then it'll say how many you've ate. Obviously I've just put cheese in there, so it came up with that. Oh, clicking on stuff. And then it'll say how many you've got remaining. Personally, I would not pay attention to the exercise thing, because it's not like reliable at all. It doesn't know how many calories your body's burning. So I just stick, and obviously remember, you figured out your calories to include your activity levels. So just ignore the exercise thing and go off for how many you've set, and then how many you've ate. At the bottom, if you scroll right to the bottom, you can then click nutrition. Then it'll come up with how many grams of stuff you ate and how much your goal was. So we can see there, how many is it said? It says it had 10 grams of fat, so we got 31 grams of fat remaining off the cheese that I just tracked, because it was the first thing I thought of. And that's it. That's it. And then you can just track that, track everything you're eating. Remember, drinks and stuff are included in this. And that's how you track your food, and it tells you how many calories you've ate and what your macros have ate. Complicated video, smashed it, mate. Hopefully that all made sense. I'm gonna try and not rant about other stuff and just keep it simple, and that's it. The take-home points I want to kind of make from all of this is, use that equation as a baseline if you want to, but instead kind of like just track your calories, see how much food you're eating. If you're maintaining your weight, that's probably the calories you need to be eating. If you're putting on weight, you probably need to be eating less calories to maintain your weight. If you're losing weight, you probably need to be eating more calories to maintain your weight. And that's it for calories. Macros, make sure you're tracking your protein, and make sure that's the one that you're hitting. Fats and carbs, just make sure you're eating a good amount of each one. And yeah, that's it. Hope this made sense. This seems like it went really rambly, but I don't know. Hopefully it helped somebody. I hope you have another great week. I am back in York next week, so the next video will probably be in York, unless I film it before I go home, unless I'm super prepared. But I have no idea what to do for next week's video. This week's video, I kind of wanted to do like a fun, challengey one. but I couldn't think of any ideas. So if anyone's got any ideas for what they want to see, let me know and I will film it straight away for you. I hope this helped you and I shall see you next week. Bye.